He's a bona fide superstar who comes from what can only be described as pro wrestling royalty.
You can look at it as it's pressure, or you can almost look at it as if it's just the biggest challenge ever presented.
Right now, he's at the very top of his field, but
the fear is, I don't want it to end, right? You never want the party to end.
Because being at the top of the WWE is a feeling that few will ever truly understand.
I don't think the average person, and I don't think the biggest superstar, I don't really think anybody can be prepared for walking out in front of 80,000 plus people.
WWE superstar, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes on The Pulse.
Guys, welcome to The Pulse. I feel like I say every week that I'm excited about the guest, but this one's different. I say that from time to time. I was, like so many people watching, the person who came up watching WWE. I was a little delusional. I thought I was going to be a WWE superstar. But we have one who actually is, from being really born into the business to the highest level possible in the WWE, the American Nightmare. So we do like the whole opening promo and stuff.
The whoa? The whoa? Yeah, you got that music. I've gotten used to it now. The fans all like to say whoa every time it hits, and I have to do it with them. Love it.
Cody Rhodes, welcome to The Pulse.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You could still be a WWE superstar.
No, that ship sailed, man.
No, you're a Pulse superstar.
I'll take that.
Paul, but you could always it's never sailed, you know. It's never sailed. If you ever want to get in there, man, I encourage everybody at all times.
I started off saying that you were kind of born into this. And for some of the people, like obviously the fans today know you and your family and your legacy. But walk us through that. Like, you literally were born into the business.
First memory of all time, the youngest I was my dad brought me to WrestleMania in Toronto. And it was his only WrestleMania he did with WWE. And he brought me there and he put me on the mat. I remember seeing the turnbuckle. It was yellow and blue, the classic, at the time, WWF logo. And that was the first actual memory I had at a WrestleMania. And it was normal for me my whole life. My first couple of babysitters at shows were Sherry Martel, Scary Sherry, absolute legend, WWE Hall of Famer, and Sting. And that was just normal. They just keep an eye on me, and even Stunning Steve Austin, long before he became Stone Cold, would just keep an eye on me in the locker room, which I should have never been in the locker room, but it's like my dad would just leave me. And I'd get my backstage pass, and I'd go back and forth. I'd sit out and watch it, and it was just, to me, it was normal. But yeah, this is what I always was around. There was no way I was ever going to do anything else.
So it really was. You knew it even then. At some point, you realized it's extraordinary. But by then, I've read somewhere, you were training when you were 12.
I remember one time my dad gave somebody their payoff in a paper lunch sack, and it was just stacks, as the kids call them now, of cash. And I thought, I don't want to do anything else. This is way cooler than whatever your guidance counselor was suggesting at the time. But I got into amateur wrestling at 8 because that was something my dad didn't do. He was big TV, suspension of disbelief type wrestler, and then amateur wrestling, I found out the hard way, is very different. Okay. But it became my sport and my foundation because today you have to have those skills. You have to be an athlete. WWE is recruiting on the highest level of athletes now, and it was very helpful.
You obviously had to be an athlete then, but it was a lot of performance. And now, you see people who are doing things that even watching on TV, like, that guy just fell off a cage that's 25 feet in the air. Growing up through that, when did that kind of transition into, I just can't be the best guy or performance or promo, I've got to be an elite level athlete?
The shift in it all has made it actually really difficult for us in the best of ways. Very challenging is a better way to put it. Very challenging for us because, like you said, you can't just be good at one thing anymore. My dad was a really great interview, a really great promo, to the degree that most people remember these promos and these interviews. They don't really remember the matches so much.
Brother, I am bad and they know I'm bad. The love that was given me, and this time I will repay you now, because I will be the next world's heavyweight champion.
Today, you have to check almost every box.
Was there ever a point where it wasn't legacy and, oh, this is really cool that my dad and my family does this, and it was just extra pressure? It is being LeBron James' son on the basketball court is tough.
It's really difficult in terms of, I look at kind of the Mount Rushmores of sports entertainment and wrestling, and there's these dads out there, Rock's daughter, for example, she's at NXT. Ric Flair's daughter, Charlotte, she's a WWE superstar. Absolutely, just a wonderful legacy and career she's had on her own. They're good examples of, you can look at it as it's pressure, or you can almost look at it as if it's just the biggest challenge ever presented. It's a bigger challenge than your day-to-day would be. It's your task is to be better than they were, which is a wild statement and a wild thing to say, but it's your task if you choose to take it up. And for me, I always looked at it that way. I never was really burdened by the pressure. I never was really bothered by if you meet older fans or if they know him and they don't know you. It never really bothered me, especially now in his passing. It's kind of welcomed, like when you meet an older fan that's all they want to talk about, like, oh, cool, yeah.
You come in, you're in the business, you're doing well. So that's obviously a level of success. Then you're headlining WrestleMania. You're and likely perhaps to do it again.
That'd be amazing.
You're beating up Brock Lesnar. I think I read someplace, and there are people here who can correct me if I'm wrong, the highest selling merchandise, or among the top selling.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Right?
That's a good little stat there.
Do you ever allow yourself the chance to kind of sit back and go, like, whoa, like I'm headlining this, those goals, and I'm sure there are more, but those goals, you got to, you did all of that.
I do try to stay really present, and I have to kind of credit my wife. We've had these moments where it's hit me that for example, you mentioned headlining WrestleMania. That's the hardest thing to do in the whole sports entertainment pro wrestling game, is even getting that match. I mean, it's the match. There's 2 nights of WrestleMania, going into now WrestleMania 40, celebrating 40 years of WWE. That's the one that I really felt like that's a great feather in my cap. And I did try to celebrate that one, and I did try to be present with it. But also the fear, and this is like the high we get from being in front of all these fans and the excitement, and like you mentioned, selling all this merchandise. The fear is, I don't want it to end, right? You never want the party to end. There's kind of this old wrestler lore where if you have this great segment, say you had a great crowd and they were just going nuts or whatever it was, great moment, that you don't want to leave. You don't even want to get out of your gear. You hang out in your gear longer. You're in the locker room longer. You're just kind of in it. And I feel like that's been me every show.
Coming up, after years of climbing through the ranks, what it felt like to finally reach the top.
I remember I started yelling to the fans, hey, we made it. I almost get emotional thinking about that. So I'm yelling at them, we made it, we made it.